We are in the midst of the Mars retrograde. It just started December 7th, 2024. Mars retrograded at 6 degrees Leo. And this particular Mars retrograde is a little spicy, okay? Because it's going from Leo, where Mars is in pretty decent condition, right? Mars in a fire sign, so it's not bad. But when Mars goes retrograde, it's going to be going into Cancer, and that's exactly where Mars is in its most challenged position. Not only that, but Mars is going to be in this opposition situation where there's a push and pull, like tug of war, with Pluto this entire time. So that's building up for January 3rd, right into the new year. We have this exact opposition at 1 degree, that hot degree right in there, the 0, 1 degree of Aquarius. So it's building up, this whole entire process of this Mars retrograde, multiple experiences with Pluto. And we're talking about those two things being like a lion and a lion tamer. If you've ever seen an animal in a defensive situation, they just act on instinct completely. They don't have a rationality to it. They're trying to survive. What is it? Fight, flight, or flee kind of situation. That's kind of what Mars in retrograde through the back of Leo into Cancer is like, with that Pluto knocking on its door, with that little whip, the psychological thing that Pluto does with everything. The lion is starting to realize it's not where it's supposed to be. A lion does not belong in a circus. A lion belongs in the savannah of Africa or something like that, right? It belongs somewhere else. The shift is fundamental, and most of the time in astrology, right, it goes from one sign to the other sequentially, and there's a story written in the signs. Going backwards is a little bit weird. So going from the lion to the crab is a little bit challenging. Its fiery nature is not at home in Cancer. The reason it might be in exile is because there's a tendency in Cancer, in the dark energy, like the dark side, the shadow of Cancer, to have the martyristic intentions, the martyr syndrome. And that's like the dark mother, I suffer for you, and the guilt syndromes and stuff like that. They have the same root, Mars and martyr. And so when Mars is in Cancer, it can go level 10. And that can get complicated. Mars in Cancer is a tendency to be ruled by fear and emotion, lashing out, especially when it comes to familial stuff, family and protection, protecting your position, protecting your home, protecting your country, all that stuff. And decisions are not made with logic or what's efficient. That's why Mars is in exaltation in Capricorn, because it can efficiently work in that way, that it's logical, it's strategic, it's able to do all these things without an emotional connection. But when it's in Cancer, it's a little different. It's about a little bit more passive aggressive, defensive, and hesitant. During this period, it's a time to confront some vulnerability. Sounds fun, right? Especially over the holidays and over the new year, building into that opposition. But the shift isn't intentional. Like Mars doesn't retrograde that often, and that it's retrograding into its exile location, that's significant. It's a chance to communicate and analyze and look deeper into the shadow self. The shadow concept is one of Jung's concepts that's pretty famous, and it's the part of us that is unconscious, repressed, or socially unacceptable, and that's a hidden part that could show up during this period. And it's something that we could project onto others, that we don't really see it in ourselves, but we see it elsewhere. So this could be a reckoning of something like, oh, I'm actually doing that, or I'm stopping myself, or, oh, that's Dobby. Did you hear that? I got this thing, my son was cleaning out his closet and found the Dobby toy and gave it to me, and it's just been sitting back there. So if you've noticed, yeah, he just decided to chat. Maybe Dobby wants to add something to the conversation. Just a moment, I'll go get him. I haven't really properly looked at him, but look, he's got a sock. Okay, let's hear, what does Dobby have to say? It's like a magic 8-ball.
Indeed, yes, sir.
Indeed, yes, sir.
I shouldn't have said that. Yeah.
Okay.
Dobby wonders where to begin.
Dobby wonders where to begin. Dobby is kind of a good character to indicate Mars in Cancer. Like, Dobby has can't believe I'm going in here. Okay. Dobby as a character from Harry Potter. He's a house elf, and he can do anything. He has so much power. He is a very magical creature, but he's treated very badly. He's rejected and he's neglected and he's got some issues. Poor baby. But then one day Harry Potter gives him a sock. That's like the release. It's yeah.
Dobby can only be freed if his master presents him with clothes.
That's kind of what's going on with this Mars retrograde. We're looking for the sock. Looking for the sock that we need to go back into Cancer to find. Does that make any sense whatsoever? I think it might. So think about if anybody in your life or yourself, if you're like allowing things to control you that you no longer are interested in being controlled. You have a lot of power, but sometimes these things with our families, these things in our pasts, the things that we wish didn't happen, okay, that might come up and that could be some pain. It could bring up some pain, some difficulty, but feeling blocked by that external force isn't necessary. You don't need to wait for somebody to give you a sock. Let's put it that way. You can go get your own damn sock and be free, because this is not a time of blame. I mean, we've all been hurt, and a lot of times by our families, and a lot of times when we had no power. And what we might see during this time is that most of the time, people really don't even know. They don't really even know the damage they've inflicted, continue to inflict, especially when it comes to guilt or that martyrdom that could be part of your family cycle. And it's not about blame, it's about recognizing this integration. And we might have to suffer before we can get our own sock. And that means going deep into our shadow self, seeing that and then releasing something there. Here's some reflection questions for you to think about during the Mars retrograde period, which is going to last for a bit. It's where do you feel tamed by unseen forces? That could go back into your past. That could be going back into somebody who's trying to psychologically control you, right? The lion tamer situation. The second thing is, are you approaching your life and your goals like a lion or a crab? Are you attacking that, or are you retreating and protecting yourself a little too much? Number 3, what parts of your shadow self are revealed in your frustrations during this time, your desires, your impulses? How much control are you giving to someone else over your life? Like Dobby and the sock, right? It's just one of those things. It's very raw, emotional. The feeling of that animal when it's in a defensive mode is like, where am I going? What am I going to do? I have to attack and fight. Okay, going into the space where you start to understand you don't necessarily have to attack and fight. You need to look into your shadow self, do some reflection there, claim your own self back. When Mars exits its shadow in May, it's a free lion. It's back in the savannah. It's back where it belongs. And it's able to be its own powerful self. It's going to have its, what's that word I want to say? It has sovereignty. That's the word I want to say. The sovereignty that is hard won through this retrograde period. Yeah. All the dates for the Mars retrograde highlights for the next, six months or so that it's going to be working through us is going to be in the description below. And just remember that this is one of those things like your miles may vary. It depends on your natal chart, where this stuff is falling. If you have sensitive planets in these areas where they're going to be retrograding, or they're going to be stationing, where all this is going on. It's how it always is. So it's not a one size fits all, but for some of us, it's going to be very, very cathartic. If that's something you want to look more into, always know your astrology, know your natal chart. If you want to go over that with me, I have a few more openings for 2024 and I'm booking into 2025. So that's also in the description below. I like you just the way you are. I wish you the best for this Mars retrograde, and I will talk to you next time.